Now for a movie rant break, One Up presents a movie rant break. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Movie Rant Break. Today, got another dope episode and a returning guest. We got Lee J. Giles in this bitch.
What up? One up.
Hey, what's up, doggy? Good to have you
man.
back on the show. For anybody that doesn't know, Lee J. Giles is a artist, and he's pretty dope. And we're going to be breaking down Batman Begins today. So, getting into some shit with Batman Begins. It was directed by Christopher Nolan, screenplay by Christopher Nolan and David S. Goyer, story by David S. Goyer. It's based off the DC Comics. The film was starring Christian Bale, Michael Caine, Liam Neeson, Katie Holmes, Gary Oldman, Cillian Murphy, Tom Wilkinson, Rutger Hauer, Ken Watanabe, and Morgan Freeman. Cinematography, Wally Pfister. Edited by Lee Smith. Iconic music by Hans Zimmer and James Newton Howard. It was distributed by Warner Brothers, and it was released back out in June 15th of 2005 with a runtime of 140 minutes. That's 2 hours and 20 minutes. With a budget of $150 million and a box office of $373.7 million. Had a reception from IMDb with an 8.2 out of 10, and Rotten Tomatoes gave it an 84%. Brief breakdown of the film. It's just an origin story of Batman with a Christian Bale as the Batman and the trilogy that was directed by Christopher Nolan. So, big ups to fucking Hans Zimmer and James Newton Howard that did the music, because that's just iconic with the fucking strings and the fucking drums. You know, it's very like Batman, the Dark Knight trilogy. This film like is interesting because I feel like a lot of people never saw this when it first came out. They just saw The Dark Knight. Do you think that?
I don't know. I feel like or at least I would, reading comic books, like I was definitely part of the crowd that was anticipating it coming out. So in my perspective, like it was a lot of people there. That's what back when they were doing midnight showings. And I think the midnight showing was like sold out.
Yeah, I believe it. Because I feel a lot of people saw The Dark Knight and then they saw this. Like The Dark Knight, I would say a lot of the people would think that that's the first one.
Really?
But, yeah, because I've talked to people and I'm like, have you seen the original? Like the Batman Begins? Like, no. And I'm like, okay. I mean, you're a DC comic fan, so it's a little different atmosphere for you. But the average viewer in 2005, like, I mean, the box office says it all. Like, it did really well, but The Dark Knight was like...
Yeah, and actually, I think it came out around the same time as the original Iron Man, which is the first MCU movie.
I think Iron Man was 2008.
Oh wait, so 3 years before that it came out. Iron Man must have came out around Dark Knight then.
I can double check, but I think it was...
But that could explain why, if it was ignored, it was back in a time before it was like a big thing.
Yeah, because it was like... Yeah, Iron Man was 2008. Yeah, it definitely was a different time. Like, that's fair, right?
It could be ignored back then, I think, especially with Christian Bale being Batman. It wasn't that big a deal when Batman Begins came out.
Yeah, and everybody fucked with the Michael Keaton shit. And then, like, the Batmans that came out in the 90s with Val Kilmer and George Clooney weren't that good. I mean, shout out to Jim Carrey. He's all right. But, yeah, I just feel there was this lacklusterness towards Batman maybe, or just wasn't on the radar. It was like, that can't be a good film. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And maybe Christopher Nolan wasn't really a big deal. That was like before Christopher Nolan really broke out too. Maybe his only movies were like Memento and Insomniac. with like Al Pacino and Robin Williams in it.
Yeah, shout out to them, motherfuckers. Shout out to Robin Williams, love him.
When I heard that the guy that made those movies was making a Batman movie, I was like, this is kind of, especially Insomniac, the detectiveness of. Do you remember Insomniac?
Yeah, of course.
It was kind of like a detective movie in a way, like, and that's what like Batman movies should be, but wasn't like that at all. It was kind of like what Christopher Nolan movies became with The Prestige and his biggest movie. Well, the one with Leonardo DiCaprio, Inception. Like Batman was the first movie in the style of how his movies became, kind of.
That's fair.
A way.
Yeah, they're like grand.
Split from Memento and Insomniac, and there was a movie before Memento too called Following that he did. It was about a guy just picking people and like following them around and stuff, like psychological kind of.
Yeah,
it was good.
I think Christopher Nolan makes cool films. And,
yeah, for sure.
I think it's cool to bring in a director like this to do a superhero film because it kind of keeps it grounded almost in some ways, and it takes it in a cool direction. And like this was the first time we got a live action origin story for Batman that showed like how and where he learned his skills and his foundation to be Batman. And I thought that was cool. And it includes like the humility of Batman. Like he had to call for help, and he like starts in a prison because he's like seeking for certain solutions in the wrong places. He's like seeking these answers, like, like being in a prison, just beating up shitty people. But it's like, dude, that's not the way. And so you see like his immaturity, and then, it shows obviously his parents getting murdered scene, which at this point, like they should just not show that anymore. Like in the time of 05 was fine, but like then they had the new Batman. It's like the pearls dropping shot. It's like, Jesus Christ, like we need to show that. But it also showed a young man, Bruce Wayne, going to the hearing of the man that killed his parents. And it shows his challenges facing the death of his parents and like trying to go essentially murder the guy when he gets released. And it shows the first jumping off of the rooftop, and it like doesn't go well, and how it leads him to having a cape. And I appreciated the film aspects to this film. Like it wasn't just like a senseless superhero type film. That it developed the character Bruce Wayne and Batman and made it kind of grounded in a way, because he was this $1 billion playboy at some point later on, but before like how we got to that. And it was just a cool depiction and just made it a little more interesting and realistic and dope. Yeah,
for sure. One thing, the inclusion of like Ra's al Ghul and all that training, the League of Shadows, was really cool, and something that like hadn't been like put into the Batman movies, that they hadn't really like gone into before, like you were saying. And another thing they've never gone into in like any other interpretation is the Morgan Freeman character, Lucius Fox, like him having that technology guy. Like he always has the computers and like the Batmobile, but he doesn't explain like where did that come from? Like in the Michael Keaton movies, for example, like
which was fine in those.
Like, you don't need to explain it, like almost like
like that was cool because they were focusing more on what they did. Like shout out to Tim Burton, he's my favorite director. He's dope, and he killed those in the first two. I think he was a part of the newer ones that came out in the 90s. That he produced them or some shit or something of that nature. But yeah, those ones just like fell off, and they just didn't have very good storytelling. And this just had a good storytelling within the film. And I think this whole trilogy, the Dark Knight trilogy, the big standout thing with it is how ambitious it was, because it was trying to tell a story. And I think that is what separated it at its core off rip. That led to the alley-oop of a great sequel, The Dark Knight. You get the calling card at the end. That was really cool. After seeing like a really solid film, and then it was like a lead-in of, oh, we're going to see the Joker. Very cool. And, it was ambitious in the sense of just like the development and really taking the chance to show who Bruce Wayne really could be, and using villains that we have never seen on screen, like Scarecrow, which is a really modest, obscure one to use that people aren't familiar with, and same with Ra's al Ghul, and like to use him as the origin of learning his skills from him, because that is the original lore in the comics.
The villain's a lot more grounded because that Scarecrow could exist where he has an air soluble spray with like a mushed up flower. Like, that shit could exist.
That's what I'm saying. Like the groundedness of it, and I just fucked with it. Like it just made you more invested in the character Bruce Wayne. It wasn't just like Batman, which is cool. And I think the originals too, with Michael Keaton, they had some more humility type aspects to it, in the Bruce Wayne end of things. But it was cool, and I hadn't watched it in a while, and this was it's just dope. Like revisiting it, and then like knowing that The Dark Knight comes after it, and it's tight.
I feel like Dark Knight, I mean, obviously this is about Batman Begins, but like in Dark Knight, they pulled together what they're trying to do in Batman Begins. Like even sometimes in Batman Begins, like his costume didn't really like age well, because in one part, he almost looks like a toy that they used to have years ago. That was like, it was a really bad toy. Like, it was when they tried to make a Batman toy that his cape was fabric. So he was like hard plastic, and then right here it became like a tacky felt, and it just looked like, it just didn't look cool as a toy. Like it just looked stupid.
You didn't fuck with it. Maybe I did.
But there was a part in Batman Begins where he just spins around, and his costume is like, latex, whatever that would be. But then his costume was like Kevlar something. But then his cape was like, it looked like that felt for like a second.
Are you talking about like in the scene where he fell off the building? It's raining after he encounters Scarecrow?
Even his chest plate, I guess in Batman Begins, they didn't build it for him to spin his neck like they do in Dark Knight. Like they even bring it up in Dark Knight. It's like part of the story. It's like now your neck can spin.
Yeah, because in the beginning he doesn't have a good radius on his vision. Yeah, in the first scene where he encounters Scarecrow in the Dark Knight or whatever. Yeah. Shout out to Lucius Fox. You brought up some of the good characters that they introduced, and I thought the casting in this film, and along with all the Dark Knight trilogy, was really on point.
Yeah, that's a thing that runs pretty good with Christopher Nolan movies in general. They're always pretty good.
He has a lot of recurring actors in his films, which I get because he likes these people that are just like gritty. I think I would describe it as just gritty people, gritty actors.
When it came out, one thing I didn't really care for at the time, and still kind of don't care for, I'm not really a big fan of Katie Holmes.
How dare you? I think that the recast of her was terrible in The Dark Knight.
I totally disagree.
Really?
Imagine if Maggie Gyllenhaal did it from the beginning and established that character as her own instead of Katie Holmes being the character at first.
Okay.
Because I couldn't get into that and couldn't get into it when it came out, because coming off of Dawson's Creek, I could not separate that.
I've never seen that show. It's like Dawson's Creek is like one of those corny 90s shows.
Yeah, it's like a 90s teenager soap opera.
Okay. Like a Friends type.
Early CW type.
Oh, C-Dub.
I think it might have been called WB then.
I think because the C-Dub is Warner Brothers. They just renamed it.
Yeah, they just like rebrand it. Yeah.
Do you happen to know why they did that? Because the C-Dub is whack. It should be a Warner Brothers network.
In comparison, look what they do with Looney Tunes. Every like 5 years, they're like, here's a new revamp of Looney Tunes.
I fucking hate that shit.
Tiny Tunes, and now it's like this, and now it's like
Yeah. Fuck them for that. Yeah. Like I hate looking at 90s cartoons redone. Like, have you seen how they make is not a great example I'm talking about, like the fucking making, like I've seen people or like a niece and nephew watching Mickey Mouse, and I'm like, it's like, what the fuck is this?
Are you talking about like where it's like it looks hand drawn?
It's
Is it computer CGI?
It's more CGI-esque than drawn.
Well, they have kind of a few different versions of Mickey. They have like almost like you call it an infant toddler Mickey, but then they have like another one that's like a little bit more adult, but still like a range of like maybe early teens could like enjoy it. You know, like they have like variations of Mickey.
I just like the old school shit. It just is a gritty. Like you watch old school Looney Tunes, that shit's swag. Yeah. The new shit there's
Old school Mickey, a giant rolls Mickey up into a joint and smokes them.
Yeah, they like with cheap spuds and shit. It was fire, dude. Fuck with that. It was dope. I think like the industry has fell off, unfortunately. Yeah. But that's why it's cool to revisit some of these older films because they just have that grit and just like you can, in my opinion, films just in the past 5-6 years have gotten like this, but you go anything past 5 years ago, maybe 7 or what have you, there's not pretenses obstructing the creativity. Like they're just trying to achieve like this is gonna be cool. Let's do this. It's not like let's include this and like we gotta be careful because if we do this, like you can see people tiptoeing in films and just like even in films, superhero films, you see that. Yeah. And it could just be a scene here and there or a joke here and there, but it just for me, and I say it all the time, it just takes me out of the film. Yeah, and it sucks.
Yeah. You know, in the news right now where they're going back and rewriting like a bunch of Roald Dahl books to like be more appropriate. They're taking and they contractually agreed to him years ago that they would never do that, but now they're doing it. And he's dead, but like
whose books?
Roald Dahl. I think he wrote like Willy Wonka and like Matilda, like slightly adult kids books.
That's fucked up. I don't like how they be doing that shit, and it's whack. Yeah, it's fucking whack. Yeah. People are pussies, and it needs to stop. I feel like there has been a shift a little bit in the timidness of trying to just make something funny just to be funny, even though people will get offended. That just goes with the territory with anything. Like people just don't like what you're doing. I mean, we all deal with that.
Any more of like an elevated, like nervousness about it, we'll get to a point where we have like speakeasies again, where we just like enjoy unfiltered like entertainment that we like is still around from like the 20th century or something. You know, like it'll be filled with VCRs and stuff, and people will be watching movies unedited by, like every time there's like basically Hulu sits around waiting for stuff to happen with people, and then if something happens with someone, they're like, we're gonna delete that episode forever, and you never see like that's Hulu controls what you see of like shows or movies, kind of like, which in some ways it's good, like. Workaholics. You ever heard? I think we discussed this last episode. You know Workaholics. So there was a comedian on it pretending to like playing a pedophile, and then in real life he ended up being a pedophile. Nuh-uh. Yeah. So they took that episode off the air, and you just can't see that. But if you own the DVD, which people don't really own DVDs anymore, then you still have that episode, or Community. There's an episode where Ken Jeong like wears like blackface, and like they don't they don't put that one on Netflix. I don't think.
I mean, people just need to learn. If you don't like something, you don't fuck with it. You don't consume it. You don't promote it. And that's how, if you want something to be not prevalent or not popular, just do your part and just not fuck with it. The notion of taking the effort to like cancel it or delete it is inappropriate, for lack of like a better phrase. But like that's kind of what it is. It's a
dangerous ground to walk, because like where's the line of what we end up deleting, and who do we allow to control what we delete? Like how do we then know that they're not gonna, the power doesn't corrupt, and like they're just like are in,
Well, I feel like they are. You're seeing what's happening with that. Like they are like doing.
We're already there.
They've done stuff to like original Disney classics. Like I forgot what it was. It was like they're taking out parts in old films to appease. Essentially, the squeakiest wheel gets the oil.
Well, actually, on Disney Plus the other day, I forget what movie it was. I think it might have been Pocahontas. They had a warning up front that said
Yes, that's what I've heard.
the movie was going to be unchanged, but it was warning you of images that were created in a time of like less sensitivity, basically.
Which is appropriate.
It was just justifying why it exists. Like it's just like it would be, in a way. But it seemed I did not watch the movie, but it was alluding to that it was going to show it unfiltered.
Wait, you started it and were like, I don't want to be offended by it.
No, I started it and then just like told the kids to like watch. Here you go. Like and then did whatever I did at the time.
Whatever. Fair.
Yeah.
So did you feel that? Like, how did you feel about them depicting this origin story of Batman as a fan? Because you are a comic reader. Like, did you feel that this is
especially from where they left off with Batman, in like Batman and Robin? I thought it was a good place to pick up. And I think the only superhero movies that were out at that time, maybe Spider-Man, like
the trilogy, I think was done.
The whole trilogy was done.
Probably.
Like in comparison to even that, it was just taken on a level of seriousness that like you never really saw before in like a superhero movie, except for Blade, which is interesting because David Goyer also wrote Blade, who wrote Dark Knight. And there's a few scenes in Batman Begins that's very similar to Blade. The whole sequence when they're in the freighter, the freighter trailers, and you don't see him, but he's like taking out all the goons before he ties the mob boss up to the spotlight.
Yeah.
That was a very reminiscent of Blade to me for some reason. They felt similar in some ways. I mean,
those old Blade films are interesting. And do you remember the end of the first Blade film? Have you seen it in a while?
When does it end in like Russia?
They're in like this catacomb of sorts, but the special effects they used it was just too soon. It was 99.
Oh,
I think.
when they inject the stuff in,
I think they're like
Steven Dorff, and
the villain. He consumes this blood entity of sorts. It's really bad because I watched it in the past, 18 months, and I remember being like, the whole film was good, and then they just had this CGI moment at the end. I was like, whoa, this is really aged horribly. Yeah. To be clear with the Spider-Man shit, superhero, we were talking about that. Mm-hmm. The second one came out in 2004, and the third one came out in 2007. So it was in between that. Yeah. So the superhero shit was like happening.
The high point of superhero movies for people probably was Spider-Man 2 at that point. I mean, like
real talk though, because I remember at the time the Spider-Man films were really cool because of, for me I was young at the time, I was like 13, 14, 10, 11 when the first one came out, whatever. And I remember watching the web slinging moments like in the city and being like, this looks fucking real. Like I remember that looking cool, and that was the big draw for me. But as I got older, the films just seemed shitty to me. Just like, especially the third one, the disservice they did to Venom.
Yeah. My personal preference, even though Spider-Man 2 was the high point at that point, my personal preference has always been Batman in a way, because Batman can be. It's interesting because like you see what Christopher Nolan did with Batman, then you kind of see what they're doing with Robert Pattinson. They're going to start a new version of it. You can have like all these different versions where there's like, there's a horror kind of, whatever you'd call Tim Burton, like a horror like vibe or like twist to it.
I felt like it was more comic booky.
Booky. It was, it's the only Batman that's like comparable to Adam West to me, where it's like there's a lot of camp from Michael Keaton.
It's
sometimes,
quirky.
Yeah, it's quirky. It's like,
but I like it, and then you have the villains towing the line and keeping it a really good film, which is always the key point in any film, but superhero films or whatever, what have you, it's very important.
Yeah,
but like in those films, you have Jack Nicholson towing the line, and then the second one you have Michelle Pfeiffer, God bless her, and Danny DeVito. Like it's pretty decent formula.
Did you know anything about like how Joel Schumacher was supposed to make a third Batman movie? It was going to be called Batman Triumphant. It was going to have Scarecrow in it. It was going to have like, it had a lot of bones that Batman Begins kind of like picked apart, I guess. Like considering that they picked Scarecrow and then like, You know, it's weird too that like in the Spider-Man movies, Sam Raimi was going to do a Vulture movie next, and then he didn't, and then like Vulture comes up like
with Michael Keaton.
Yeah,
ironically, in this conversation.
Yeah. They don't let the developed like concept art go to waste. They just like store it in a drawer for like the next one.
Yeah, maybe it's just like that's the next one. It's just meant to be. Yeah. I thought the Vulture was depicted kind of cool with Michael Keaton.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
I thought it was. Sure. I almost like it the most out of them, with the new ones.
It was disappointing he wasn't in No Way Home.
Yeah,
that was like the only that and Mysterio. I was like, you couldn't have like both those guys or like one of those guys. Like you should have. Why not?
Yeah, Mysterio was cool too, and then like the third one was just like too much fan service. It was good. Like they've gotten slightly better, but they could have made them even cooler than they did. Like it just seemed, I don't know. Some of the Marvel shit the past few films are just, it almost feels not rushed, but just like thrown together. Like we'll just do this, and like yeah, you can do that. It's going to be an okay movie, but they're not making the Dark Knight trilogy type shit. Like there's the only thing that's been a full trilogy that was phenomenal. You could say the Avengers was pretty decent. It was 4 films. That was pretty solid top to bottom. Captain America has probably the best trilogy.
Yeah.
And but like no one else, Guardians of the Galaxy could. We'll see how the third one's going to be. The first 2 are great. But like you have Captain America, Avengers, and then maybe Guardians of the Galaxy. Hopefully, shout out to James Gunn. But outside of that, you have all these superhero films that are just like not consistent, and it just feels like they're
for sure.
So we were talking.
You don't think much of the. You could consider what Zack Snyder did, a trilogy of Man of Steel, Batman vs Superman, Justice League.
The Snyder cut was decent.
Yeah,
the
I thought it was pretty decent.
cut was bad.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And Batman vs Superman is bad. It's bad. Man of Steel was good though.
Yeah.
We were talking about the casting. The characters, we got some heavy hitters in this. How did you feel about Liam Neeson as Ra's al Ghul? Because I remember the first time I watched the film, I was really surprised by and keep in mind my age. It was like a teenager. It wasn't where I'm at now with the whatever, but the misdirect worked, and I did not see that coming, and I thought the story was well written to have like a tie-in and go full circle and a return in the end, and Liam Neeson was great.
Yeah.
How did you feel about that whole?
In Batman Begins, I really liked Liam Neeson. I really liked the League of Shadows. One thing I didn't like about Dark Knight Rises was that they brought them back. I was like, I felt like that could have gone in a different way in the third movie, but in the first one with Liam Neeson, that misdirect, that feels like something out of like all the other Christopher Nolan movies where there's like some kind of misdirect swerve like that.
Yeah. You didn't like it in The Dark Knight Rises how it was Talia?
Not really.
I liked it. I thought it was also a good unveiling, like, oh, word, because it just made the cohesiveness between the 3 films a little tighter.
Yeah, it feels like a mess sometimes when the city is like being overrun. It just like they have all this shit happening, and then they're all driving those like Batmobiles around. At times, I was just like, I really do like the Batman, the Dark Knight trilogy, but the only 3 movies I've ever fallen asleep in when I saw them are these movies. Originally in the movie theater.
Interesting.
At the time, I had a really hard job, so I think like sitting down and how long these movies are, I was like just falling asleep. But yeah, I fell asleep even during Dark Knight, and I fucking loved it. Like I was loving it, but I still like passed out.
Because it was the good music.
Yeah, and in the movies sometimes, maybe not so much in Batman Begins, but in Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises, there almost feels like there's like another whole half act of something going on. It's like you could have cut that out and it wouldn't even have mattered. Like in Dark Knight, like the whole ferry standoff where it's like
ferry standoff
where Joker's like, one boat's full of citizens, the other boat's full of prisoners. The citizens got the trigger, and
the ferry,
yeah. That
Yeah, I can see that.
But what's crazy is now that Batman came out with Robert Pattinson, I feel like the whole part with the in the stadium at the end that feels like tacked on to me. It's like another whole just like half act of something that they just could have like compressed. It would have had a stronger impact.
Okay.
Somehow, like if they'd had the fairy stuff going on while Batman's dispatching the whole construction site of like, saving the hostages but taking out the guys, and like if that somehow happened all at the same time, it would have been like, wow, that was fucking nuts.
No, you thought it was just stagnant.
Yeah, it just was like stretched out. But Christopher Nolan movies like go like that. They're kind of just like
He's throwing shade.
No, certainly not. I sometimes don't even like. I still have to watch. What was the last one he did with Robert Pattinson and Washington?
God.
Tenet.
God, that movie is confusing.
Yes, I liked it, but I was like, I'm not certain but like I just watched. I've watched it a couple times. And I'm still just like, I still like it.
Listen to the review I did. My friend that's on the episode, shout out to John Smith. He breaks it down for me because I thought certain things, and he did a little digging with it, I think, and just filled in some pieces.
I'm partially dyslexic, so when things go to like,
it's so convoluted, and the thing for me in that film was like, in films that are that convoluted, there's a point where I'm just like, I'm not that invested and I just don't care. Yeah. So then you like kind of lose me at some point, and it's like, okay, it's not that cool for me to be so into this. You know what I mean? It's like, like I'll just so it was cool, but like I just don't give a fuck.
Style over like, actually like
it was try hardy, like let's make the most like intense storytelling ever. It's just like, and so they had to like have time travel naturally to make it confusing, and then there's like multiple versions of the same person doing the same thing at the same time, and like they try to like do this crazy unveil, and you're like, what the fuck it was just convoluted. But regarding Ra's al Ghul, I thought when I was watching it today that knowing a little bit of the backstory of Ra's al Ghul, I thought it'd be cool if they somehow implemented the Lazarus Pit. Like, that could have been like a really cool element to this film, like where he like dies, and then there was like a Lazarus Pit scene. And for people that don't know what a Lazarus Pit is, the character Ra's al Ghul, he'll go in this like it's almost like acidic type pit that creates like a resurrection or immortality of sorts. And I think it would have been a cool element to have in the film. Maybe it would have made it too ungrounded, but I just think the dark tone that Christopher Nolan portrays in these films, they could have made it kind of eerie and dope.
Yeah.
And
my only exposure to Ra's al Ghul before Batman Begins was like when Ra's al Ghul was on. You ever watch Batman animated series?
The cartoon?
Yeah, the cartoon.
The original?
Yeah. So he was on that a lot. And those episodes I did not really care for because it was kind of like just like a boring old guy. Yeah. That was when like Batman would go out into the desert and be fighting people with like Arabian blades, and or he'd fight tigers. He'd get stuck in a tiger pit and like wrestle a bunch of tigers. And it was cool, but it was like, these are the least exciting Batman animated series. Like, so to then go to the Liam Neeson thing to kind of like, it was a lot more exciting version of him that had previously existed. So,
are you familiar with the Lazarus Pit?
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure.
Yeah. How did you feel about Cillian Murphy as a Scarecrow in this film?
I thought it was pretty cool. I mean, I already was like familiar with him for 28 Days Later.
Yeah, that film's gas.
Great so I was like, man, that's fucking awesome.
Man, that's fucking awesome.
and having Arkham Asylum in it, because they'd never gone into Arkham Asylum either. Yeah. They took a lot of stuff that they'd made prominent into the mythos on the animated series, made it into this.
They I think in these Christopher Nolan trilogy, they stay true to the source material frequently. I'm sure there's some strain of it,
Yeah.
But there's a lot of
they name drop a lot of a lot of the crooked cops in those scenes, and a lot of those names are like the same names from the actual
like Falcone
stuff.
Is the mob leader.
Falcone, yeah.
That guy was cool. I talked to them.
Yeah, but all the crooked cops, like they have like there's a few books that like you only hear those names in those books, and like they're referencing like that. And Carmine Falcone. It's too bad they never had a cat. I guess they did have a cat one, but they didn't connect it to Carmine Falcone like they did in the comics. That was like it's different in.
What's their connection?
That Carmine Falcone might be her dad, biological father.
Oh, Shiza.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that's not. We don't need to get into that.
Yeah, they didn't bother going. He's already gone, and by the third one. So by the end of the first act,
Hathaway, she's amazing. Yeah, I love her and Alice in Wonderland.
I never saw it.
Oh my god! And I got the Alice through Looking Glass poster right there. But she's in that. She's in that. I think she is. Yeah, she's the White Queen. She's incredible in that. She's hilarious.
Cool. I loved her as Catwoman. I thought
she's awesome. Just dope. She's a baddie. I fuck with her, and she does her job well.
Yeah, I don't feel like the new Robert Pattinson movie is so different from the Christopher Nolan movies that it was. It's good, but it's almost wasn't worth doing because it's still. It's like the Christopher Nolan movie, but like a slight David Fincher like twist to it.
I don't know David Fincher, but it just for me, they're trying to make him feel. They're going deeper with the detective shit, which I get. They're like, he's the super detective version, which is cool, and I appreciated watching that film. The film was good. The Batman, it was good.
Yeah.
That movie was slow, but it was like a high quality film. I liked it, but I prefer the Christopher Nolan one. Especially. But you have to see, we talk about incorporating the whole trilogy and like what that entails, and you can fuck with the previous films when it's all done. Like the Batman could age well if there's a solid trilogy. So I don't want to like write it off, but it was definitely good. Like, and especially with the inundation and saturation of superhero stuff and doing Batman again. We just had the Ben Affleck one, and then the Christopher Nolan. Like in the past 15 years, we've had like 3 fucking Batmans, and
that's why I really hope the new Batman and Robin movie, the Brave and the Bold, that they're gonna make.
Who's the Batman?
They haven't announced it yet, but they've announced that the next one they do is a Batman Robin movie. So that even that in itself is going to be something new because they've not really given that to like people before in a way.
Well, they did the one with
Chris O'Donnell.
Yeah,
but
I didn't think he was a bad Robin.
It wasn't. He wasn't a bad Robin, but the story itself
trash.
It wasn't representative of like what they could really do. Like,
agreed.
Like so,
those films are bad.
And the Robin's a completely different character. The Robin in this movie is going to be the grandson of Ra's al Ghul. It's the son that he has with Talia sometime, and now Batman's taken him, and he's a child assassin, and he's taken him in, and he's made him going to be the new Robin.
So this is like completely different, like new thing.
Yeah, Batman's already like kind of they're
not
like
Pattinson.
No,
it's like someone else.
Pattinson's going to be like an Elseworlds Batman.
I don't know what that means.
His movies will still exist, and this other Batman will exist, but this other Batman is the connective tissue Batman that has like Superman in his movies too. And,
the superhero shit is just getting so extra. I'm like, God.
I shouldn't bring that negativity in here.
There's so much negativity. What do you think of Scarecrow getting tasered in the face?
I thought that was cool.
I thought that was like a good way because it was grounded, right?
Yeah.
Like this Rachel Dawes, what's her name? You said earlier.
Katie Holmes.
She's like, Kah! And he's like, woo! And like he rides away off a horse, and they're like, oh, that was a good way to like, because Scarecrow's not a strong motherfucker, so to have him get tased in the face, which would be excruciating amounts of pain, I thought that was kind of a cool like outro to him.
And his mask had some kind of like electrical gear in it.
Yeah, and he does return in the other films, which is cool. He's in all 3, which I really appreciate how they did that as well. I want to just big ups to all the Alfreds out there, because I think in every film, like, I think the first dude, did he do like the first 5? I think he's the only
character.
Yeah. So that first Alfred is great. This Alfred is great. Michael Caine, shout out to him. And I even think Andy Serkis is a good Alfred.
Yeah.
And then Robert Pattinson.
What about Jeremy Irons?
Oh, with Ben Affleck? Yeah, he good too.
Yeah.
They're all good. So shout out to Alfred's, but you think the Alfreds are obviously on point.
Yeah.
They're all good.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You can't go wrong with Gary Oldman. He's always money. Because I think he's a great Commissioner Gordon. And I like how they developed the character yet again with Bruce Wayne as a child dealing with Commissioner Gordon. And there was that development as well that also enriched these characters and you made more invested into them.
I don't know if they'd ever done that before. That might have been like the first time they've ever tried to like twist that element or
I liked it.
Yeah, it was cool.
It was cool. It was good development. I think it's like you mentioned adding Lucius Fox in. Morgan Freeman killed it, and it was a happy new addition that just added more groundedness to kind of back how and why Batman's able to have all this fucking tech and gear and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yeah, so those motherfuckers killed it. And I wanted to mention that these villains, you said that they were trying to do some of these villains previously in the older films, but it was the first time we've seen these villains on these films. And I thought that was cool too, because it's kind of it's a daunting task sometimes to like Scarecrow. Like, how are people going to receive this? Mm-hmm. It's kind of obscure, and it's just going to look cool, like the dude with the suitcase with some poison shit. And I thought it was really dope, and I loved how they showed the visions that people saw.
Yeah, the sequence with Rachel Dawes under like the train, the above when they tried to do the subway above the subways above the roads.
You talking about when they're going rooftop to rooftop?
No, I'm talking about when I guess the asylum's broken out, so the patients are like running around and it's like really smoky, and the fear gas has been released from the sewers in the Narrows or something. And Rachel Dawes is affected by it, so everybody has like glowing eyes, and everybody's looking up and they see Batman flying above, and it's like a man bat looking thing. Like,
it's dope. And then when Scarecrow gets a dose of his own medicine, Batman looks crazy as fuck. I thought the effects were really dope, and the fucking Scarecrow shit with the fucking showing what's going on when they're taking that shit was it was the scariest shit to go on. Like, Batman looked the scariest out of everything, which was dope. And
it kind of felt like in some elements of like their plan was like a operation, what they did in Fight Club at the end of Fight Club. They're just like Operation Mayhem, where they're just like causing like social chaos. They're like destabilizing like economies and like taking down cities. Film. You don't remember Fight Club?
I've seen it, but it's been so long. I know the twist.
They like start a Fight Club, and then they start doing like, we're gonna go down and we're gonna blow up like the national debt. Like, they're just fucking with like society stuff. Like, it's pretty cool. It reminded me of that, what they're trying to do in the League of Shadows, where they're trying to take down Gotham's economy, and then like, it was cool. I like that. There's like a more realistic, like terroristic type
the motivation
organization. Yeah. The motivation, but like also realistic, intention, instead of just like we're gonna hijack nukes and fucking, just like an unrealistic plan that's like, yeah, but where do you go from there? Like, what do you do then? Like,
it comes back to the groundedness of shit where you're like, this could be real. Like, because that's kind of, I don't know if it's the first time when you see it, but as you keep watching it, I think there's motivation to why you fuck with it. It's just like, oh, this seems kind of reasonable to some extent. Like, this could have, like, the CGI is minimal, and like, I thought that the minimal amount that they did use was pretty well done, and they went a little extra, but it just, they make it like it was the most real version of Batman shit that we had ever got. This whole trilogy. Now they're playing on that with like all superhero shit. It's like, how can this be as realistic and like believable? as possible. And so shout out to Christopher Nolan, kind of, in my opinion, almost setting the tone.
Yeah.
If you think about it, because we hadn't had something like this. We're talking '05.
Yeah.
Spider-Man and Superman.
I'm almost certain, not soon after Batman Begins came out, something that like Batman Begins like made the blueprint for was like Arrow and their whole like success in that CW universe.
Sure.
Like the first season of Arrow's like is very much Batman Begins by Arrow. They take a lot.
Is that where you got the shirt?
Yeah,
because of that show. Word. Mm-hmm. I think
if you've ever seen it, and that show involves the League of Shadows also. There's a lot of similarities to it.
I don't like Green Arrow.
Yeah, the show. Have you ever watched that?
I haven't seen the show. I like the characters. Like,
yeah.
Same with like Hawkeye. It's like,
yeah,
like they're all right.
Yeah,
I don't hate them. They're just like,
The show is very melodramatic, which is the aspect of it that is like I don't necessarily.
It's on the
care
seat
for.
up.
Yeah.
But like, I feel like an Arrow show should be like gruesome and like exciting and like over the top if they're gonna make an Arrow show. But I don't know the lore.
Yeah, it's good.
Did you think the fighting choreograph in this film was good?
Not necessarily. Like going back to that fight in the freighter. I thought the fight between Batman and Ra's al Ghul was good. I thought their training sequences were real good.
Yeah.
One part, like how they did some of the editing in like the freighter trailer sequence.
A lot freighter? The train?
No, it's like the trailers that like come off like
the Connex boxes.
No. Like there's when Batman takes down Carmine Falcone.
Those are Connex boxes.
Connex boxes. Oh,
that's what they call them. I don't know. There
cool.
could be other
Connex
names.
boxes.
They talk about the shit that like, they go on the freighters.
Yeah, and Batman's running around the top of it.
He's running. And
yeah.
Like
the way they cut it was so quick cutted that like for an action sequence, like. I don't know. It seemed too. They did a better version of it, kind of in the Batman, where he's moving real quick. You don't really. I guess you could see him in the gunfire in the Batman.
No, they don't do a lot. They cut it a lot, so it looks like they're fast motions. And shit. Yeah. I think like yet again, Christopher Nolan did a good job setting a good example of how to make it look legit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I thought the choreograph was like good. Like I watching it say. There was pretenses I had on it, and then watching it, I was like, it holds up.
Yeah.
Like there's a couple points the effects aren't great, but they're pretty good. Like it didn't take me out of it. Like I just reviewed an Indiana Jones film, and it's like, whoa. Because I did watch the Batman Begins on 4K, and that's when shit gets really exposed, and nothing really was overly exposed, to be honest. Good. And I'm super hyper critical on that shit. I'll be the first to be like, that looked like booty cheeks, like that's no bueno. But I enjoyed watching the film. It was like a pleasant surprise. I haven't watched it in so long. Mm-hmm. I usually watch Dark Knight. That's pretty much it. Like, because The Dark Knight Rises is like really dark.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just like terrorism to the fullest. You know what I mean?
It bums me out so bad that like they went a separate way of Batman, where it's like it would have been cool to have a fourth movie that maybe Christopher Nolan had something to do. Maybe he just produced it. But you see what this Joseph Gordon-Levitt does.
Yeah, that would have been tight. Like, he became Robin and shit. Like it would have been cool to have a fourth. But I feel like the time that this trilogy came out, like a fourth, which is trilogies were the most they did. And they did bursts of 3 at most. So a fourth was just like all these people were working towards just doing a trilogy, and it was done. Like I'm pretty sure Christian Bale, I've read, he was just like, I'm done, Batman. Like I'm done.
Yeah, but imagine Christopher Nolan just walks away, but Warner Brothers is like, we still want to make a Joseph Gordon-Levitt movie, and they bring in another guy who's just like a visionary type of guy, where it's just like they have their own style, and then you start seeing the mutated villains for Batman, because Christian Bale just took that atomic bomb out to the coast, and now that atomic energy is coming in, and you see people like Killer Croc and the mutated people.
I think that would be a disservice to this trilogy, because they just did so minimal CGI. Like I think they would have to do like a Deathstroke.
Yeah.
Or like, I think a Mad Hatter like Deathstroke film would be sick. Like, or they do like that would be a cool one to have, like Mad Hatter, Deathstroke, and there's like two, like he's trying to deal with both of them at the same time, and they're not like working together, but like they're both running rampant in the city.
I feel like they got to do a movie where his whole rogues gallery is like referenced in some way. Like,
what do you mean by rogues gallery?
Like they establish more than just 2 or 3 characters. They're like, you know, if you have Arkham Asylum, why not just be like, oh yeah, here's this guy, Dr. Freeze is over here. You know, like it just
like how like an inundation of like 4 or 5 of them. And
yeah. Oh yeah.
It's tough. Like I think if they're visionaries with it and they're like, oh, like because they did that with the Spider-Man shit and it like wasn't cool. Like they brought all the shit from all the shit and it was just like.
But like imagine being Batman and there's all these bad guys around, and do you think the bad guys are like, okay, this week you do it. Next week,
no, agreed. That's why I said like Mad Hatter, Deathstroke would be cool, and then you could add like a third like really weak villain, like what is it, like they in the second film I think they have Zaj. He like tallies his kills. He
I
like
think
has
it's in the first movie because I think
he in the second because I looked for it in this one. I didn't see it. It's in court when they're trying to convict Falcone, like one of the crime families in The Dark Knight. When like Harvey Dent's in court, there's a little tip of the cap to like you can see his face. He's got like tallies on it, and I think they reference his name, but I'm not 100%. But like I think it's Zaj or Zaz or whatever. Yeah. But he's in the second one. But yeah, it would be cool to implement more in one. But you got to be careful sometimes because throwing too much into one thing can just make it as most know like shitty.
Yeah, it's a fine line to walk.
Yeah, but I agree. Like Batman usually is fucking. He's got a lot of muffins in the oven type shit where he's got to fucking manage. You know, people aren't taking shifts, but that's I think 2 or 3 at most, and especially if they're different pedigrees of power. You know, like you got like one that's just like a nuisance. That's just like, you know, robbing a pizza shop. But he's like calling for bat or something, you know. And then there's like super powerful one, and then just like some motherfucker. It's like
there's so much Batman lore that movies have really just like scratched the surface of it. Agreed. In a way. Like
I've said, Spider-Man and Batman have so many amazing villains that, like you said, they've barely scratched the surface. We keep seeing the same ones that keep recurring, and it's a matter of I think just having another ambitious director. And a visionary that wants to tackle, you know, like if they did like a 6-film type thing where it's like 6 films in 10 years type shit would be fire as fuck. You know?
Well, they're gonna follow some form. Have you seen the James Gunn like outline of movies and stuff? Like
vaguely, I peeped it. Like James Gunn could crush it, but he could botch it. Like he just needs. I hope, and I think he knows. Is keep the satirical shit to a minimum. Like, not everything needs to be satirical. Like, you start Suicide Squad was great, but like, if I got like a bunch of the same redundant type of written films where it was just also kind of making light of everything and satirical, I would get really sick of it. I like the darkness and like
the next one he's writing. I don't think he's directing it, but the next one he's writing is Superman Legacy. So if that was similar to Guardians of the Galaxy, that might not like.
Yeah, and he's like that's why like Man of Steel is dope, right? Yeah. Because like there's like the development and seriousness, there's loss, you know, like, and that's why the Guardians of the Galaxy, the first one, so good. The Guardians of the Galaxy 1 is, I think, because I ranked it with the homie on our YouTube show Hot Takes. I think we said Guardians of the Galaxy 1 was the best Marvel film to date because of like everything that it encompassed. And the whole loss with his mother at the beginning, like it's super cancer. It's super serious, and then like it gets satirical, but then it's serious. It's fucking really well done, and like you can't say that for all of them. And that's why Iron Man was so successful because he fucking he's this fucking baller ass hustler with weaponry to whoever buying, and he's in the desert and he gets fucking captured, and then he has to fucking build his first Iron Man suit and escape from all these fucking terrorists in like Iraq or Afghanistan. Like that shit was just so grounded. You know what I mean? It was just gritty, and you know, yeah, we need that shit.
Oh yeah. I think a big influence on those early superhero movies like Iron Man was, the special effects. I don't know if did you ever watch Firefly back in the day?
Firefly?
Yeah, it was like a space show that Joss Whedon did.
Josh
It
Whedon?
was like half.
He,
It was like half Western, half Star Wars. It was good. It was when they first. You ever seen District 9?
I haven't, but I know it's sci-fi.
The special effects they do in it, they started doing it so the camera is kind of like. That's when they started like shaking the camera on like special effects to make it like be out of. Part of it was that it purposely looked like it was going out of focus. Was part of it. The special effect. They do it all the time now. Like things are coming in and out of focus, like in the special effect. That early Iron Man movie, like, was just completely different.
Yeah.
Especially from
the filmmaking aspect, from the
filmmaking aspect of it, but just like in what it did and what it attempted to do. Like
that's what I'm saying. Like back then, it was one of those films that like they were like shout out to Jon Favreau. They were like, let's make this gritty, dope origin story of this character. It's about Iron Man and Tony Stark. It's not like, oh, I'm super. It was a story. It was storytelling. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And shout out to Jeff Bridges, goddammit, because he in that too, and he makes that movie what it is as well. But Jon Favreau, I'm pretty sure, was the visionary in it, and it's like it's when creatives are being creative and they have minimal restrictions, they can make these things, but then sometimes things go in a certain direction where some of that creative energy is like mitigated and is trying to be like suppressed, or like creatives feel suppressed by the potential of what could be perceived with what they're doing. And it's fucking shitty. And because we talk about these older films and they're just killing it because they were like, we need to be cutting edge, make something that like no one's ever seen. Now it's like everybody's seen shit, and like it's like people have been so spoiled that they're like, we've seen it already. You know what I mean? Like, how can we make this better? And it's like, I don't know, like, yeah, but like that's how I feel sometimes. It's like people have been so spoiled. We're just like, oh, like they have the luxury to like shun something or try to cancel it. It's like, how dare you?
The creativity is also boxed in by their success, because then they're what they then, the producers and like the owners, what they then want is you to then play out the successful formula. You know, when Black Adam came out, how much comparison and like screenshot side by side comparison there was to like, this is just a comparison saying this was an early 2000s movie that should have came out when Iron Man came out, because they were putting like the sequence with the fighter jets like side by side and like, just stuff like.
I mean, that film just used everything that worked. I don't think it was a great film, but it was good. I actually liked Black Adam.
I liked it also. It felt like the end of like the Snyderverse. And having Cavill in it was like the perfect, like, it is the end of the Snyderverse, because these guys are never, like, they're never going to bring back the Rock.
Rock was salty about it. And
yeah, he's not going to come back.
He's so salty. Oh, money talk. He's a slave to this whatever. He's a slave
to money. Yeah,
dude, he'll do anything for money.
They immediately went wrong with me with that, because like,
you want to spark that freshie?
Yeah. Reading the comics, like, to separate Shazam and Black Adam at all was like foolish from the start. Black Adam, or the Rock, got it in his head that he's like, no, the Black Adam's so big, his bad guy should be Superman, not the Superman wannabe. Like, so because of the Rock's like stardom, he skips his normal comic villain. Imagine someone being like the Lex Luthor being like, no, like just taking, it's just ridiculous. A ridiculous notion that that it should have had no connection to Shazam. Like,
what you're saying that
it was a misstep in Black Adam's part to not have Zachary Levi in that movie, to have Henry Cavill over Zachary Levi in that movie. Shazam and Black Adam are basically the same, empowered. He
says Shazam to be Black Adam.
He by some alternate way, he was the champion in the past, and he was able to come to the present through whatever he was mummified or like whatever happened to him. And then Zachary Levi is the current champion, and they're the enemies of each other in like the comic books.
Yeah, I think when I reviewed that, I'm not super aware of the lore with Shazam and Black Adam. I know Black Adam is a villain of Superman, but I think he's more prevalent to Shazam.
They've crossed each other, but he would definitely not put him in Superman's like rogue gallery. You know,
he's not like his top 10 villains, but I thought he's like top 15.
No way.
Nah?
No way. He is a secondary character. I mean, like in X-Men, Magneto can show up other places, but he's basically like X-Men. Like he's Professor X-Men.
You're speaking my language.
You know what I'm saying?
Keep talking. You see that shit?
Yeah.
You see that shit?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Exactly.
I'm about that shit,
like,
bro. About it.
He walks the line of like, I'm a bad guy, but then I'm also like the uncle. I'm also become like an uncle character. Like they follow him sometimes, maybe sometimes they don't. He is a Shazam character. The fact that Zachary Levi wasn't in that, or the sequel of Shazam wasn't, The Rock couldn't handle being not the title character. I feel like he couldn't. He couldn't
he's a
be
slave to like all these fucking concepts, like being the front, like
ego.
It's super ego, and because I'm not a fan of The Rock like at all. He's the biggest clout chaser, and I'm not saying he's not talented to some degree. And I honestly gave him a lot of respect to his acting in Black Adam, because I was like, most of the film I thought he was Black Adam, which is surprising because I don't think that he's that good of an actor. But I think he really cared about being Black Adam. But I think I wouldn't be surprised, being that he's such a big name, that he influenced the studio to allow him to do certain things, and it jeopardized the source material to some degree. But
I almost feel like it should have been a JSA movie where Black Adam, he could have potentially, the story could have been like them finding him, and like they were featured right from the beginning anyways. Why not make it a JSA movie? And like,
a JSA film, what does that mean?
The JSA, the Justice Society, the team that helps Black Adam,
Oh, word.
Those guys. But anyways, back to Batman Begins.
Batman Begins, yeah, fuck that bullshit. I thought the character design in this shit was fucking gas. Like the Scarecrow, and
I love the practicality of like Batman's always had those fins, but in this movie they like explain it why he's got those fins, like because it's part of the ninja gear. The ninjas have those things, and like he carried it over into the Batman design.
Well, I like that shit too.
Yeah.
The character design was explained with Batman, but I thought Ra's al Ghul was dope, and just his presentation, and Scarecrow was dope with the mask, like the bag over his head, and
having a Oogie Boogie thing going on.
Fox is you Oogie Boogie. Shout out to Tim Burton, goddamn it, which he didn't direct.
Mm-hmm. No, he just designed the characters.
If I'm not mistaken.
That's how they made money for. The ones they did after. They're like, from the creator of Nightmare Before Christmas. And people are like, oh, Tim Burton? I'll go check out Monkey Bone.
I fuck with him. Did you see that Wednesday show?
I did. I'm in like the middle of watching it.
Okay. It's slow, right?
It's slow, but it does not feel slow. Shit feels slow to me sometimes. But like, I do enjoy it. There's a lot going on in it. Like, I'm just like, what the fuck is going on?
I didn't realize it was going to be like a mystery. Because I'm not.
Yeah, no.
It's like a mystery show, and I just finished it. But I wasn't that privy to the Addams Family stuff. Yeah. Because it was a little... I'm a 91 baby, so like I think the Addams Family just like wasn't in my threshold of shit. Do you know what I mean? So like watching this, it was like, oh, it's Addams Family homage shit. That's cool. Tim Burton's doing it. Cool. He's my favorite director. Word about it. And they didn't make it too long, but there was just, for me, I didn't realize it was a mystery. It was cool. I think they could have cut out some stuff, but nonetheless, it was well done.
It was a definitely interesting take, because like the first Addams Family like stuff. Well, I guess it's not the first, but like the stuff that came out in the 90s, it fit the mold of what they were trying to push in the 90s, which was like family show. And then that's where we start. Like the starting point of most shit was there's a family. And then it goes in a different direction. Adam's family, they're a creepy family. But the Wednesday show being a detective show was really cool. You know, I really thought the Hyde was Christina Ricci because the Hyde's eyes were so like fucking crazy. Like,
I thought you didn't finish it.
I haven't finished it, but I read online spoilers because I couldn't help myself.
Why do you do that?
I'm watching it with my daughter, so she only wants to watch it sometimes, and I was just like, and then I saw we're only halfway through. I was like, oh my god, like
so you just wanted to go fucking spoil the whole shit.
Yeah, I'm still about the journey. Like I'll still watch it and enjoy it just as much.
You're fucked up for that.
I'm enjoying it because then you see like this. It's like, oh, are they hinting? They're hinting that like then
I
you're
hate
like,
you for this.
Hey,
I hate you for this. Do you fucking do that with movies where you look up the premise?
some movies, yeah.
Oh my god! Before you watch them,
My earliest I have a very vivid memory. I had a job when I was 15 at Ames department store. If you remember Ames back.
Rest in peace, Ames. Yeah, it was like a Kmart joint.
There was a guy there.
Oh, good, thanks.
It's more like a Kmart Martin's. There was a guy there. He had
seen it when I saw it.
Yeah, at Martin's. There was a guy that worked in the electronics department that he saw the Steven Spielberg movie AI with the kid from I guess I can't remember what that kid's name is, but remember that robot movie AI?
Was it something? Was it an iRobot?
No, it wasn't iRobot. It was a Steven Spielberg movie. I can't remember the kid's name, but I think Jude Law was in it. Jude Law was like a robot also, and they were like the kid. He is a robot. The kid wanted to find a blue fairy like Pinocchio. He was trying to follow the Pinocchio story. It was a big deal back then, and like they were like, "There's a twist ending." This guy saw it. I was like, "Just tell me the twist ending." I was like, "I'll still go see it." I was like, "Just tell me." And he was like, he refused to tell me, and I was like, oh.
"I want to be friends with that person. That's a good person. That's a good human." Because I would do the same shit. I'd be like, he'd be like, tell me the twist. I'd be like, no, I'm not telling you the twist. Especially only if it was a movie that was a throwaway. If it was a throwaway film and I didn't give a fuck about it, then fine. But if I felt that the film was really good, it was riveting, I'd be like, I'm not telling you because you need to watch it.
Even books, like if I'm not able to just pick up the book and read it, like I'll be like, I'll just be online and be like, I wonder, I see people talking about it, so I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna check it out. Movies too.
You're fucked up for that.
Yeah.
Okay. What did you think of the Batmobile driving on rooftops? Like, did you think?
I thought it was pretty badass. That's the most badass Batmobile, I think. I think when Ben Affleck had his Batmobile, it was essentially just a copy of.
Yeah, he was a ripoff. Yeah. The whole shit was a ripoff. I know we talk about this film being grounded and it's truly being grounded, which I think it is, but they did have some extra ridiculousness shit, like soaring rooftop to rooftop with the Batmobile, and I thought it was funny because they also added the situation where his woman Rachel was like tripping sack off the Scarecrow's fumes. And he's like, don't worry about it. And he's like ripping rooftop to rooftop. He's like, don't worry about it. And she's like, Batman, what the fuck? Because she doesn't know who Bruce Wayne is Batman. Mm-hmm. So she's not only tripping sack, like seeing, like she's basically like on a high dose of DMT, like thinking she's about to fucking RIP. But in real time, she's in this crazy souped up Batmobile going rooftop to rooftop. Like, it was fucking hilarious. Yeah. He's like, don't worry. There's a line he said, he's like, I forget what it is. It's not my quote, but he's like, essentially like, don't worry about it. You'll be all right. He's like flames coming out the back of the whip.
I don't know if it happens in that one or Dark Knight, but there's another like cop sequence where he's in the Batmobile and he just like runs over it like a tank and it crushes it. So he's just like he's tearing it up.
I fuck with it. It's dope. So in the chase scene, there was this a quote that was so fucking funny to me. Okay, so I don't know if it's before or after the rooftop nonsense, But the cops are chasing Batman in their cop cars, pursuing Batman in the Batmobile with the tripping sack bitch. And when they clip to they'll clip to a cop chasing and they'll just have a one-liner, like the one-liner clipping back and forth in like a chase scene, right? Like someone just say something. A lot of times it's really stupid and they shouldn't say that. And so in this film, and I want everybody that is going to watch it or has seen it, whatever, like if you want like a little laugh during that sequence, the one liner that one of the cops says is, I'm coming right up on his butt. That was his one liner. And I was like, really? That was the line. I'm coming right up on his butt. What? That was the line? Like, get the fuck out of here. Like, that was like so poorly written. Like, I'm coming right up in his butt. And then it clips back and it's like Batman's like, or some shit. Like, I forget what follows that, but like, I remember just hearing that. It was like, why? Yeah. Why is that the line? Like,
yeah,
I'm coming right up on his butt. Like, Jesus Christ. Like, that shit is like, pause. What the fuck? It's such a, like, that was the dumbest thing in the movie to me. Like, it was the most poorly executed.
Do you remember the MTV Movie Awards? You ever watch those back in the days? Remember how they used to like spoof movies with like the host or something? They used to like.
I remember the Tom Cruise, Ben Stiller.
Yeah,
that shit is.
They did tons of different stuff. Sometimes they'd show the movie. Like one time they had Andy Dick in there. They spoofed that sequence in Batman Begins where the cops like he's yelling shit into the radio and Batman's like going over the roofs and he's like he's on the roof and there's like I think it's either Jack Black or like Andy Dick doing it. It's hilarious.
Yeah,
because they're just like because it's so corny.
Yeah, it like that scene has like cool moments, but it was its worst moments too.
That's where you probably see like the hands of like a Batman. Even though it's Christopher Nolan doing it, it's also being done through Warner Brothers, and it's being done with producers who are like, it needs to be like this.
Yeah, and these are those scenes that you brought up earlier on the show where you're like, you could cut that out. They could cut out the rooftop scene in the car, the cops chasing them. You cut that out.
You cut it out, and it adds to it.
Facts. Like less is more.
Yeah.
Agreed. So I would say that is the scene in this film that feels like that to me. Where I was like, I like how he's going rooftop to rooftop, but then like there's this really shitty banter one-liner shit that we're watching, and it goes on for like maybe a whole 5 minutes. Like it's a full extra. It's a lot, and it's funny and fun, but then it's like, all right. Like, what are we doing here? Like, what are you guys doing?
Sometimes when they're conceptualizing those movies, they're like, we have a minute mark. We have minutes. We have 20 minutes for an action sequence. Then, like, it's all planned out like that. Like
that should have been cut, though.
Yeah.
That's why I always say, like, get me in the writer's room. I will tell you what's good with it. But, like, the funniest part in the film Batman Begins is when Alfred is trying to get Rachel in the back of his car, and she's been sedated, so she just looks like a drug. Like I could take advantage of this, girl. Like roofied. Thank you, roofied women. And then he's putting her in the back of a car, and then looks right, and there's two caterers outside of the establishment he's at, and they're looking at him like, "Are you going to rape this?" Like he looked like he was about to get down with some raping.
Yeah.
Did you laugh at that? Did you catch that?
Yeah, I saw it. Well, it plays up. What they do good in this movie is play up the like Playboy aspect of like when he's faking, the personality. Bruce Wayne. Alfred does it too. They're both like soldiers in a way, and they're pretending like, he plays along with that, like what they are watching. They think they're watching him do. So he's like playing along to disguise what he's really doing.
When does Alfred do that?
When he's throwing the body into the back seat, they're looking at him like that, and he just kind of like plays into it. Kind of, I guess his response. You know, it's not like he's trying to explain that he's saving her. He's just like,
Yeah, I think he makes a comment that she drank a lot.
Yeah,
he was
yeah,
he was doing what he was doing, but it just didn't seem that.
yeah,
And like maybe that you could say across the board, like everything that all the protagonists were doing, it was like obvious, like their dramaticness, but like it works. Like they, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
which is like kind of cool if you think about it. Yeah. Do you think with Batman having his mouth or it's what, upper lip down exposed to his neck? I was thinking about it and I wanted to ask you this is, do you think that actually would work as a disguise? Because I don't think it would. I feel like if you know someone really well, because like assume in this film where like Batman, aka Bruce Wayne, meets people or comes across people in Bruce Wayne's life that are really close to him and don't know it's him, and I think that is dumb. Because like you would know.
One thing that's like unconvincing about the movie is Christian Bale's Batman voice. Like it's not.
I'm Batman.
Yeah, it just doesn't work.
You don't like the voice?
After Will Arnett kind of like deconstructed it for the Lego movie, it almost sounds like, you know, it's hard to like separate those two at that point.
So you don't like him. You don't like Batman. You don't like the Christian Bale Batman and his voice he uses as Batman.
Correct. Yeah.
Why is that?
I don't know. It's just like because of
Batman.
At this point, to me, I now hear that leads me to hearing Will Arnett in my head doing it for the Lego movie. You know, like when he's Batman.
Is it try hard? It's like, dude, just be Batman.
Yeah, it is like, kind of.
You don't need to pretend you're Batman.
You know, I was just.
That's fair. Thinking about it is try hardy, but like I kind of like it because it's like, who the fuck would talk like that? Like, is that Batman?
I can't honestly remember how Robert Pattinson does it. Was he whispering?
He's like depressed. He's like he just shit his pants, and he's like, I don't have any spare underwear. Like that's how like he said. He's like, where is she? Like he just like I don't even know how to sound. Like I'd have to shit my pants to sound.
That like, almost disguises his voice a little more though than just like adding like a gravelly like
gravelly is not, no. It's like that doesn't no. It's all it's the most you could try to sound like Batman, but it's like maybe that's how Batman would sound.
I don't see how I don't see how Rachel Dawes wouldn't know he was Batman.
Well, because the face that's what we got on with this tirade with is like, I think if you're really close to somebody, even someone not that close to, like if their like nose down was exposed, I'd be like, yo, Joe, that's you, bro. Yeah. Joe, the fuck.
Maybe there's a perceived level of darkness that we don't see as outside of that, being outside of that world. Know. That like because she's doing it in the dark, she doesn't actually see what he looks like. Instead of it's clearly like Christian Bale, like especially if you grew up with him, you know, like
it's like it's fine.
Yeah.
Like who is your favorite Batman so far?
I don't know.
You need to choose. You need to choose, sir. Can you please choose?
You know, I'm a real big fan of the Batman animated series. I mean, I know that's not like live action, but
what's his name?
Kevin Conroy.
Yeah, rest in peace.
The whole series as a whole. I mean, because that kind of encompasses like
the video games as well.
The spin-offs of like Batman Beyond, and like
Kevin Conroy has done so much Batman voice acting. He's was Batman's voice, and his voice is dope. I fuck with it.
And he did the Arkham Asylum games.
That's what I'm saying. He's in the games and shit. Like he's the voice.
Yeah, he passed away.
Yeah, I know. I just said rest in peace.
Yeah. Oh, right.
That's what I was saying. Like,
yeah. Rest in peace. Man.
Like shout out to my guy. Yeah. Like he's killing it.
One thing I hope they like bring back in the new Batman that they like start developing is
so much Batman.
You know, like a less dark Batman, like more of the Adam West style.
You want a happy Batman?
I'm not a happy Batman, but like a campy Batman, because It is ridiculous.
Well, they're bringing Michael Keaton back in the Flash.
Well,
film,
that's separate from what they're planning after that. Though
I'm not keeping.
that trailer looks
I
awesome,
don't have time to keep track of this shit. Like, it's not. It ain't it. But like, I'll still check shit out. Like, some could catch me, but like,
it's tough.
You
it's
like this whole. Oh, now we're doing like I'm. If you're losing me, like, just so be it. Like, I'm over it. Like, you're not making that much heat at this point. It's like you're not reinventing yourselves with, and that goes for Disney, aka Marvel, and Warner Brothers too. Like, you need to start doing different shit, and like this film was some different shit. Batman Begins, that's why it's what it is. Even though I think a lot of people haven't seen it comparatively to the other two films, but like this shit is, killing the game.
Yeah. They need to stop resetting it, if nothing.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I just reinvent yourself, make it cool. You just like stop doing this carbon copy shit. I'm just tired of it. Like,
it's crazy to me. The first thing that was like I took away from the Man of Steel, like Justice League stuff that like started happening years ago was like you pick Zack Snyder to do it. You're gonna get a Zack Snyder movie, and at the time, like it was 300, and like I don't know if Watchmen had came out. Maybe Watchmen had came out. And it's like he has a style. It's a very distinct style, and it's polarizing. Like people like it, people hate it.
Oh, Zack Snyder did 300.
Yeah. I think
that's a good film to review.
That was like his first one. I think he came out with. That'd be
a good film to review. Yeah. Do you fuck with that film?
Yeah, oh yeah, I love 300.
We might have to tap into that.
Yeah,
I would fuck with that.
Yeah,
because like I remember seeing 300 and being like, whoa, like whoa, because I think also a teenager, like maybe an older teenager. Like I was pushing 20, and this is just reference for people to like understand like where I would feel the way that I do about this film, because I think it's always relevant. Is how people feel about certain films. Is like, where do you fall and when this came out?
Yeah,
because like you just it's a different feel.
Movies hit you different at certain points in your life. It was Gerard Butler's like first big movie too coming out. Like,
dude, the film was like all green screen.
Yeah,
and that was like a new thing too.
Yeah.
Like it was like cutting edge, and it's like and that's what I'm saying. We've seen it so much now. It's like when we saw 300, it was like, oh man, what the fuck? Like we know it's fake.
It was kind of like Sin City. It was like a different,
way cooler though.
Yeah, way cooler, done differently, but kind of like that different though. Like that kind of different style.
Yeah, but it also like appealed to mainstream commercial film goers. You know, the people that watch fucking, Die Hard would be like, I'll go see 300.
Yeah, and
they were like, that shit was sick, and then like. Everybody would just agree that was that was some innovative shit. Like we haven't seen some shit like that, and that's like going back to what I was saying. It's like stop giving there's a lot of films that have copied what 300 did, and like they did even a sequel of 300, and it was like that wasn't a good service to that. That wasn't, they didn't reinvent it. They were just like trying to chase. This wasn't it.
It was one of the first. Now look at where movie making is now, where Quantum Mania, some of the biggest shit, Quantum Mania, Mandalorian, that's all in green screen now. And 300 was like one of the first movies doing it like really well.
Yeah.
Like did it like, they set like a blueprint early on.
Who did you say your favorite Batman was?
Maybe the Batman animated series, the cartoon.
Oh, you just said that. Okay. I was like, wait, what did he say?
Yeah,
because that was not like an answer that I had in my head, so I forgot it.
And that's only because like there's so much lore to it. Like,
no, I gave my nephew the first season of the Batman animated series. I had it, I fucked with it, but I was like, yo, because he's watching some stupid shit, and like if I had kids, I would just. I don't want to say I'd force him to watch certain shit, but I would like only make certain shit available.
Yeah,
like it's just
it's
the
hard.
dopest shit. Like, but it's dope. They would realize it was dope at some point.
I really like Ben Affleck. I mean, I just think it was Zack Snyder was like a certain, that was a style choice right from the start. Like you were never gonna get other than a Zack Snyder movie, But I did like Ben Affleck. I love the part in Man of Steel, like the sequence where he has to like take down the warehouse of guys.
The what?
Like the whole sequence where in Batman versus Superman where you know, they're versing the whole movie. Finally, they come together, and he's like, "I'll take care of this. You go rescue my mom." And Batman goes into the warehouse and he takes out all the guys. Like the whole sequence was badass. There's a part like he's arm locked with a guy and he like snaps the guy's arm, but then in his other hand is a shotgun and he like shoots a guy.
Who's doing that?
Ben Affleck.
Okay.
It's a sequence. It's a sequence in Batman vs Superman.
Is it in his like flashback dream shit?
No.
The desert shit was kind of cool.
This is what he's doing when Superman's fighting Doomsday at first, because Batman couldn't fight Doomsday. Like, you know, had to go do something else.
Yeah, but he got the armor and like fought Superman.
He had to save the mom, and then he had to get.
I hate this movie. I don't want to talk about it. This movie sucks. I don't want to talk about it.
You know what's crazy? Like Batman Begins happened, but like they had a few Batman movies they were trying to develop that didn't make it through. Like they had a Darren Aronofsky Batman movie. Like that was like is. He made Darren Aronofsky made Requiem for a Dream.
Haven't seen it.
He made Pie. He made the
cookies too.
No, like
just Pie.
Pie, the mathematical.
I'm just fucking with you.
Did you ever see The Wrestler or Black Swan?
Anne Hathaway's Black Swan. I know that.
I don't know if Anne Hathaway's in that. I think it was Natalie Portman.
Was it?
Yeah,
I'm totally off. I think you're
The Wrestler with Mickey Rourke. He also did. He did The Fountain with Hugh Jackman. I don't know if you remember that movie.
Yeah, it's Natalie Portman. You're right. Sorry.
You just on an Anne Hathaway kick.
Yo, I love her. She's the White Queen. God damn, I love her. Have you not seen those movies?
Which movies?
Alice with the Tim Burton joints.
I have.
You don't fuck with them like heavy? That's
I
shocking.
I don't know if I've watched them all the way through a single time.
I got you.
I'd say the same thing for the Tim Burton.
Eat some mushies. I'm dead ass. Like just whatever dose you're feeling. You've done them before?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just chilling, eat a little bit, and then just wait 30 to 45 minutes, and then sit down. Or you could even just eat them and then just sit down and just put that movie in.
Jabberwocky.
Bro, dude, that's just gas though. But the first and the second one, and that's another. You know, I talk about how people saw Dark Knight, but they didn't see Batman Begins, right? And it was like people didn't see the first one. People saw the first Alice that Tim Burton and Johnny Depp and everybody did, but nobody saw the second one. Like on average, like it's just like significantly less. Alice Through the Looking Glass. It's super gas. It's a good follow-up.
I sometimes avoid movies that like make me feel a certain way and like creeped out. Is like I guess I feel creeped out sometimes by Tim Burton movies.
These ones are fucking phenomenal. There's some
that
of my
one
favorite
and
films.
Willy Wonka.
Willy Wonka's terrible.
Yeah,
that was like a flop. Like it's fine. He's made enough hits. That's fine. Like you can have that.
He'll
one.
be fine.
Like no one gave a fuck. You can't fuck up Alice. Like that would be a disservice to humanity. But like cool. You can fuck up Willy Wonka. Like fuck him. Like that's fine. I'm over it. That's real talk.
They're making something else right now too. I can't think of.
They're making a prequel. I guess they haven't made a prequel to Willy Wonka, but the kid from Dune is doing like an origin story of Willy Wonka.
Timothy Chalamet.
Yes. Yeah. When we spoke originally, I thought you said that you had some beef. Did you say you had some beef with Batman Begins?
Yeah, I just like I was saying earlier, like they sometimes just feel too long. Like they just feel like there's a whole section of the movie that could be like compressed for like excitement. You know, like
and you're like, stop wasting my time.
Yeah, sometimes. I mean,
that's your beef. You're like, you've wasted my time. Every time I have to watch this, I have to watch an extra 18 minutes because you guys just can't cut this.
Sometimes the Batman movies, like the Christopher Nolan ones and this new Robert Pattinson one, like it like misses like the high techness of Batman. Sometimes it's like super prevalent. Not that Christopher Nolan's Batman isn't high tech, but like he's almost like sometimes. He'd be on a James Bond level, like James Bond, Pierce Brosnan level of like tech gadgetry.
What about Sean Connery? Yeah, out here. He's the OG. Wasn't he the first James Bond?
Yeah. No, Roger Moore.
Nah, he replaced him after Sean Connery. I'm gonna look this shit up. Pretty sure it's my guy Sean Connery. I'm gonna look it up.
If I'm right, I get that lighter.
The later? Which later?
The one I tried to pocket.
Yeah, Sean Connery.
Oh shit!
The first James Bond.
Well, you can have my lighter.
I think like Roger Moore did like the third one, and then like Sean Connery came back and did like two more or some shit. Like,
and then who was after that? Timothy Dalton.
I don't remember. I'm not like up. I'm not a big James Bond fan.
Yeah, me neither.
Sean
Actually,
Connery's just a G.
I like anything kind of with lore. Like if anything's gonna bring me to start watching something, it's that it has like a catalog of stuff like that like precedes it. You know, like sometimes
It's all good.
I want to watch a franchise.
You want to watch a franchise?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, like
I like being invested in material, especially when a film can get really intricate and down to like a really personal level, and there's like a lot of empathy in it. And then it's well developed. It just you feel a part of it, like it's some real shit. And like even if it's some fantasy driven story, to have them real, like gritty situations going on with people is what I fuck with. You know, like in this film, they're showing you like who Bruce Wayne, like how he came up and like what happened in his life. And that's why I think in this film and what separates the Dark Knight trilogy is it's showing you the human in the super. And that's dope. And any film that has that underlying with the storytelling, it's riveting and it's fucking cool. You know what I mean? You can feel like it's something, like if it's got some human elements to it, you can like connect with it. And you're like, this is cool as fuck. Like, yeah, like I'm with this motherfucker.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. The groundedness of it adds to like feeling of it. Yeah, for sure. More so than like when at the time like Iron Man came out. Iron Man was like much more of like a CGI spectacle type deal. Batman in comparison, especially Batman Begins, was like, you know, almost like this guy could be out here doing that.
Yeah, like Iron Man tried to explain and get it like super personal in the later films. They're like, oh, remember like his like Bucky killed his parents. Like that was kind of like in this film. You know what I mean? Like they packed that emotion into it, and like I'm trying to say is like films that do that are dope. And Christopher Nolan knows how to pack emotion or things that'll, you know, cultivate like empathy towards the characters in the worlds that he's building. And, you know, it's why I think these are kind of iconic. And I just want to, you know, shout out to everybody a part of this film and this trilogy. And it's fucking dope.
Yeah. It would have been cool if they did Riddler for Dark Knight Rises. But
I think the Heath Ledger death really threw people off.
Yeah.
Oh, and like the third one was just like, we're gonna make something dope, but like it was gonna be way doper, but like we're not gonna take too long to just like do this. Like we're just gonna do it.
Robin Williamson wanted to play Riddler for a while.
Robin Williamson? Who's that?
Mrs. Doubtfire.
You mean Robin Williams?
Oh right, Robin Williams. Right.
Was he still alive then?
What
do you mean?
There was talk of him playing Riddler for a while. He was like attempting to be Riddler in some kind of form of a movie.
Oh, he died in 2014. So okay, yeah, he could be a Riddler. That would have been sick.
Yeah,
I would have fucked with that. I'm gonna have to hit this film. I mean, I said IMDb hit it with the 8.2 out of 10. Rotten Tomatoes at 84%. I'm going to hit it with a 7.9. What you hitting it with? 1 to 10 to the 10s place.
I'll say a 7. I'll stick with like an even 7.
Okay.
I already kind of felt like just watching it the other day. I feel like I could watch it again almost before I have an interest to watch like the Batman with Robert Pattinson. There's more of like a rewatchability to me with like the Christopher Nolan movies. Yeah. Even just the first one, you know, like in comparison.
Agreed.
Yeah.
But I always like to appreciate films like for the one watch.
Yeah.
But like the rewatchability films are obviously fucking great.
Yeah.
You know? Like and I agree that this trilogy has the rewatchability and the intrigue of just like this is dope.
And the craft, like the thoughtfulness to like put into everything, like the craft of it all.
They explained they really try to explain how Batman did the shit that he did. Like when they were explaining like how his cape worked and how he used like his vanishing powder. You know, there was like
the cinematography in the movie in itself is like crazy when they're like out on the ice caps, like
or the frozen lake.
Yeah, the frozen lake. Yeah. You know, there's just a lot of like really good looking stuff like going on in it.
Cinematography's gas.
Yeah.
Super cool. And super on point alley oop to make Dark Knight what it was. And rest in peace, Heath Ledger. That shit was great performance.
Yeah. A good follow up to Batman Begins. It was
for sure.
They pulled it together more, I feel like, and it was like what they were trying to do with Batman Begins. It was like
100%. And the third one would have had the Joker.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna talk about it. I'm going to try to get through the whole trilogy in the next year or so.
Yeah.
But thank you for being on the episode. Batman Begins.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. Yeah, it was dope.
The last time that you were on the show, we did Everything Everywhere All at Once. And I told you pre-show, I was like, yo, that day was fucking crazy. And there was like this, I remember you rolled up and I was like trying to run an errand and shit. And ended up, we smoked before the show, fucking got a little litty. And I remember trying to read some shit and just with the convolution of the plot and just like everything, it was just like super hilarious reviewing that film. But glad to have you back.
Yeah, man, that's fun.
Word. Batman Begins. You got some plugs?
We got when's this come out?
The next week.
We got a bunch of shows coming up. We got Flask Fest 4 coming up at Flask. Currently, the shows we throw are one time a month. We're at Flask Lounge
in
Portland, the second Wednesday of the month. Then we're at Free Street the second and fourth Thursdays. Doing different stuff. It's pretty cool. We'll have Flask Fest next, but
Word.
Then I got the art.
The art
out there.
You got a website?
No, just on Instagram on the social shit.
What's the tag?
Lee J Giles.
That's it. Is there a dot?
On Instagram there's a dot. Lee.J.Giles.
Okay.
On Facebook I don't know if there's a dot. That's a good question.
You're gonna have to ask Facebook.
Yeah.
Word.
I'll just search myself.
Word. All right. So thanks for being on this episode.
Yeah, man.
Batman Begins. Lee hitting it with a 7.
7.
Hard body.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna hit it with a 7.9. And appreciate everybody for listening to this episode. That's Batman Begins. And love y'all. I'll check you next episode. Deuces.